I am asking you to turn your packet to page 17. Yes, it's where we left off yesterday. We did get a little bit further than some of my other classes yesterday, so I have a feeling this group will end early. I did just want to start here so that I wasn't kind of starting in the middle of wave erosion. So the biggest thing that you need to know about wave erosion is longshore current. So on the bottom of page 17, we took these notes. If you don't have them from yesterday, you need to add this to your reading or to your bottom of page 17. So we do have that longshore current causes sand to be transported along the shore in a zigzag pattern when waves strike the beach at an angle. So to start that, hopefully you see why it's called the longshore current, because the sediments are being transported along the shore. With this, the zigzag pattern is kind of the key that you need to know. So they go, when the waves strike at an angle, the sediment will follow that wave and go up at an angle and then be pulled back and up and back and up and back. I did have a video that I forgot to show you yesterday. I know some of you were super encouraged to see the video. It's only about 20 seconds long. So don't get your hopes up that this is some cinematic masterpiece. It is. This piece of cinematic masterpiece was taken by yours truly while on vacation in Virginia Beach this year. What, Carter?
Was it you or was it Sarah?
Yours truly, me. Stop. Oh, good. If you can't sit in that seat. Over here. Get up and go. Go. All right. So like I was saying, this is a video from an actual beach on the ocean that I took this year. I may have been that weirdo who saw this family playing with what I now think is a pretty cool, like, floaty toy thing. And I may have been the weirdo who asked them if I could record them while playing with it. Definitely like a little creeper version of myself. But the parents were all for it. I also gave them a little mini lesson on what was going on. And the parents are like, see there, now you learn on summer vacation. My daughters may have been a bit embarrassed, but here is this video. Again, it's not super amazing. Yeah, so what we got going on here? First thing is you can see we have a beach and some waves. So at first, what I want you to notice, you can even see it in this part I paused. What do you notice about how the wave is striking the beach? It's at an angle. So we have, you can see like here on the left side of the picture, you can see that the wave is coming up much higher on the beach. Down here in the bottom right corner, it's barely even in the view, in the picture. The waves strike the beach at an angle. That's the first thing you can see here. And then you can also see that when they go back, they come back straight back. But this little guy is what I needed to take a picture of or a video of. What do you notice about how that little surfer dude?
He's moving over to the right.
He is moving over to the right. In what kind of pattern? So you can just see him leave there. He's now going to pop up. There he is. Now he's going to come back. Notice he's coming back, straight back. Going over to the right at an angle and then coming straight back, angle, and then he would have come straight back. Amazing. I was watching that and I was definitely a super nerd. But you could totally see how that surfer dude was going in a zigzag pattern along the shore.
Yeah, you're weird.
Yeah, it was definitely a little weird of me, but in the end, I got a really. I couldn't justify. I went and looked. They were way more. They were like $20, and I wasn't into $20 just to do that really short video. But in the end, it showed perfectly longshore drift. So we saw. Okay, we saw that zigzag movement. Now that guy was moving in the opposite direction, so it all depends on which way the waves are coming. If the waves are coming this way, then he would move more like the video did. But in this case, where is this the way? No, this is opposite how he was moving. In the end, zigzag pattern. We talked about how the hotels like their sand. And to prevent their sand from being washed away, they end up building these small walls in between the hotels. I have some pictures of these as well that I'm going to show in a few minutes. These walls just slow down the movement of, or stop the movement of the sand away from their own hotels. So I do have some more pictures of beach erosion here. So let's start here. Again, there's nothing to write right now. Beach erosion typically has particles that are sorted and rounded. So again, nothing to write. Just hold on. Why are sediments on a beach can be rounded? They get bumped and knocked around, and when rocks bump and knock around with other rocks, they kind of roll around and all the sharp edges get worn off those rocks and they turn into rounder rocks on the beach. What about this whole sorting? Again, what do I mean by sorted? Okay, could be layered. That's one way they get sorted. What's another way that rocks get sorted? Not quite in a layer up and down. They do go side to side. I should have also grabbed a picture of this, but have you ever been to the beaches on Lake Erie? Like Evangola, Bennett, Went, any of those beaches over there? Sunset Bay, any of those. There is a difference between the lake and the ocean in this case, because there's more rocks on those beaches than most of the beaches in like Florida or on the ocean. Can you picture when you first walk into the water at the beach on Lake Erie, what do your feet feel?
It hurts.
Hurt. Why?
Rocks.
Rocks. So those beaches in Lake Erie, when your feet first touch the water, typically you're walking on rocks. Keep picturing a little bit further. What happens as you walk in? Get softer. Why does it get softer? Because now we're to sand. Good. So Carter's noticed it. Sarah must have noticed it. The rest of you, if you didn't notice it, hopefully Sarah and Carter did a good enough job describing it to you. But the beaches at Lake Erie have rocks. Why are there rocks first? And walk out a little farther and you have sand. What can waves carry?
Rocks.
They can. Can they always carry rocks though?
Not big ones.
Not big ones,
Small ones.
small ones. And go ahead.
When it brings them in, it doesn't want to take them back.
Okay, so when it brings them in, it can't take them back. What happens to a wave after it hits the beach?
It goes back.
It does go back. What I'm getting at though is its energy slows down. It doesn't have as much energy. So it has enough energy when it's first getting there to carry those big rocks. But then once it loses some energy, it drops off the biggest rocks first. Those are the rocks you first touch when you hit the water. Walk out a little bit further, you'll notice, yes, it still hurts, but it might hurt a little less because the rocks are smaller. Keep going, eventually you get to just sand because it can no longer carry the rocks, it's dropping off sand particles now. So waves, just like running water and wind, sort sediments by their size, shape, and density, just like that lab we've been doing. The biggest, roundest, most dense rocks will be dropped off first. Here is a diagram that's showing that longshore current, but after watching that video, you might not even need this diagram. Again, you have the waves hitting the beach at an angle and the sand moving in that zigzag pattern. How about this? Where is the sand going in this picture? Once it hits the edge of this beach,
This way.
yeah, it's going to keep going this way. In fact, it's going to eventually start to build up over on the right-hand side of this picture, and you're going to actually get sand lost at the left side of the beach, and it's eventually going to start piling up here on the right side of the beach. I have some actual pictures of what this might look like. I'll come back to that one, come back to these. Here is a picture of what that might look like. So now they do have these groins there to prevent the sand from moving. But what has happened is the sand that used to be here at the top of the picture has now, again, because of that longshore current, started to gather up at the end of that beach. And beaches in their natural state will constantly be changing and moving sand from one place to another. So again, to prevent that, here's an actual picture. This has to be a very old picture, I'm guessing, of some sort of beach. You can see that they have put quite a system of these little walls out into the beach to keep the sand in the area that each property wants it. You will notice that, so they are coming in at an angle. The sand is being worn away and moved to the other side of that wall as well. And yes, they could rearrange this, and they probably will eventually rearrange it to flatten out the sand in that little section.
I'd cry if I went to a beach and saw them.
So you don't think they're very,
No, like they're useful, but like,
but you don't like the way they look? So speaking of not liking the way they look, you probably have seen ones maybe that look like this. Where we just went in New Hampshire this summer. This picture here on the left is how they try to make it look as natural as possible. So they don't always build a wall like here on the right. Oftentimes they just put a pile of rocks there. And most people might not even realize that that was put there by humans. They might think it was just part of the landscape. Sunset Bay has one of something similar to this if you've ever been over there. So there are other things that waves will create, and they will look kind of like this. So you can see, you can imagine, so we got all these rocks. What do you think used to be all the way up to here? There was probably sand, but even this cliff could have at one point been all the way out here. And then slowly over time, the waves crashing into those rocks have worn away the rocks, and the cliff is getting closer and closer and closer to that hotel.
Yeah.
What do you think is gonna happen here? What's still happening every day here? Yeah, it is still wearing away. The waves will still come up here slowly. You can even see, I don't know if you can see, it's like deep, there's like a crevice here. It's almost like a little overhang. So it's already eating away at the bottom. You can see right here, the bottom of it being eaten away, and eventually gravity is going to do its thing and pull that back down. We have sea arches and sea stacks. If you've ever watched Survivor, they often pick locations that have some of these rock features that you can always see in the background of the show. And these are, again, those big rock features that the waves just constantly hit at and wear away certain areas. What do you think is happening in this sea arch? Why do you think this area might have worn away and this side didn't? What are some possible reasons? Steve, is you with us? Yeah. Why do you think this area got eaten away, but this rock part didn't? This is an actual question for you guys.
since the waves travel at a diagonal, I could have hit them differently.
Okay. So one possible solution is the waves are hitting these differently. And this area might get pounded more by the waves than others. Guys, what do you think is another reason why one area might get worn away more than other areas? What do we know about rocks and minerals? Come on, everybody think. Why might one area get worn away while another area stands still and strong? Nothing?
Different angle, it gets
Okay, these parts of the rock might be more resistant to weathering. Remember that phrase? More resistant, less resistant. So this area in the middle could have been made of weaker, less resistant rocks. And this area might be getting worn away faster because those were weak rocks. These might be stronger. You can imagine eventually still this pounding of the waves constantly will reshape what this looks like again in the over the next few years. So here's an actual picture. I do believe this rock formation has fallen since
Yeah, I think it has.
this was the Elephant Rock.
It looks like an.
It does, I mean, weird that they called it that, huh?
Looks like a
Yeah.
whale.
So it's,
Yeah, you could go with a whale as well, but if I can remember correctly, this has fallen now.
why?
Because why? You tell me why, Carter.
It looks like a horse.
No, I was just kidding, I just wanna go and get them.
Why? So let's talk about this. Why, Carter? Why do you think this has fallen now?
Cause the rocks got old over time and just fell.
That makes no sense.
Well, no, I mean, I see where you're going at. They've been standing there longer, they're older,
The waves are gonna hit it.
but the
so
waves
where-
are gonna hit it. This
gravity
isn't
pulls
much
it
of a
off.
support here. We don't know how much of it is underwater still here. So again, the waves, gravity can't, gravity is going to take over if this isn't big enough to hold it up. So yeah, this has been destroyed by the waves. We already looked at this picture. Here's kind of an animation of how these sand spits form. So the longshore current is pushing the waves in that zigzag pattern, or pushing the sand in the zigzag pattern, and it piles up here. Eventually, it will pile up so much that you can then start to build on it.
You can see the sand in the water.
You can, yes, and you can see that there is more sand out here. So eventually it will pile up and pile up and pile up. And you can always assume that humans will take advantage of that and build on it later.
Sandbars.
Sandbars, what the heck is a sandbar, Sarah?
When the sand comes equal with the land or something.
Okay, so again, this one is going to make more sense to the people who have been to either Lake Erie or the ocean. But a sandbar, how a sandbar basically works is you get in the water. And what happens? What do you expect to happen to the water?
It gets deeper.
It gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So you're going in and in, the water's getting higher and higher up. But then what happens at a sandbar?
You get, and then you go up.
And then it starts to go up. So it's like it goes down, 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 and then you hit a sandbar and it goes up, up, up. They don't have to be all the way out of the water. Sometimes it'll just make it so instead of being 5 feet deep, the water is only 3 feet deep, which seems weird because you're out further. Again, what happens is the waves are strong enough to carry the sand a little bit away from the beach. But again, once they slow down, they drop off the sand in that pile called a sandbar. Those sandbars, if left alone, can grow and grow and grow and become what's called a barrier island. This is the beginning of a barrier island. So what do you think a barrier island is? What do you think it does? Okay, it creates a barrier that's going to divide the area. So here is the mainland up here in the upper left. And this is basically a sandbar, just like Sarah was describing, that grew and grew and grew. And now it's a whole island of its own. These barrier islands get so big that they become places like the Outer Banks, Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach, Atlantic City, Ocean City. Those are all barrier islands. Really. So they are nothing more than sandbars on steroids. What do you guys know though when hurricanes come up the coast?
Wipe someone.
Who are the places that get hit the hardest? Those places I just talked about. Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach, Outer Banks, they often get hit by the hardest by these storms because that's actually their job. They create a barrier between the mainland so that they're basically going to slow down the waves before they hit the mainland. People who build on them do know how to build on these islands so that they get the least amount of damage once they build them with the expectation that they are going to get flooded. For example, most hotels, their ground floor typically doesn't have too many hotel rooms or too many, like, they have like the lobby there, things that can be replaced rather quickly. Or they even have a parking garage on the bottom floor, and then the top, next floor up is where the lobby is. So they build them with the expectations that they will be flooded, and they reduce the cost for how much it will cost to repair everything. Again, here is that beach. So Sarah, you say you didn't want to go to a beach that had these, but you can see that it's not like, we're not building Trump's 20-foot wall with signs that say do not enter. We're
But then
just,
you can't like run across at the edge of the beach.
right, it does definitely slow that down. So when they do have these, you have to go.
Football across the edge of the beach. Would not be able to do it.
Right, you could, I mean, I think this is bigger than it looks from here, because there is a decent size, like on Virginia Beach, they have these, they have them disguised as piers though in Virginia Beach.
Oh, just for the-
So again, we already showed that picture. Here's another, this is more like what they have at Sunset Bay. So this is, we've got water, like the open water here, and then that they have like a harbor, so like the small boat harbor has one of these as well. So you come in here, and then inside this area would be where you park your boats and stuff. Well, they need to keep this area clean of sand and debris, because if it gets too filled up, boats won't be able to go through. So again, they build those little barriers so that the waves cannot drop off the sand right here in the opening. And almost it. Again, here's another option. Here, they built barriers out in the water. I don't know if I would rather look at this or the little walls that they create in here. So it's just another option. The waves will hit these, slow down the waves so that they can't move as many or as much sediment. Here we have them building an actual wall on the land. So one way to hold the dirt there is to create a wall there. They definitely have these in Lake Erie and Dunkirk. Friend's house looks just like this. And I don't know what I think about this, whether I like this better or not. What?
I like the walls.
Well, you guys talked yesterday about moving sand. That is something they do. They will go out into the water, use machinery to dig up the sand that has been moved out, and they just shoot it back into the beach.
That's pointless.
I mean, if you want your beachfront hotel, you're going to move the sand, but it's pointless. Why do you say it's pointless? I know where you're going. So it's just gonna move again. So it's just something that it's their regular maintenance.
What's like under the sand, like nothing?
No, eventually you'll get down to, I mean, on the sand on the beach is just more sand. Like, it's not like it's floating on water or anything. It's sand that builds up, builds up, builds up.
Oh, okay. What's underneath of it?
Sand. All right, so that is as far as I wanted to get. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's okay, because some of my other classes are behind schedule. I have no homework planned for you today.
Wow.